Morning headlines told the story. The magic of Sachin Tendulkar on one hand, accusations of racism on the other. Indian spinner Harbhajan Symonds appeared relaxed before play today, but it may be a different story tonight when he fronts an ICC hearing on a Grade 3 Code of Conduct charge. It follows an exchange with Andrew Symonds during India's first innings yesterday afternoon, when it's reported Harbhajan used the word monkey. Match referee Mike Proctor spoke to Ian Healy about the incident this morning.
And it has been saddened a bit by the fact that there will be a hearing, and a hearing is initiated by the umpires because they can report on any breach of conduct. And they reported to me the fact that there was a breach of conduct reported to them by the Australian captain Ricky Ponting. He reported it to the umpires, who reported it to me, and then in turn I inform both parties that there will be a hearing. And in this case, it's a level 3, which is pretty serious, that the hearing has to be within 36 hours after they've had the information received from me.
So the umpires were reported to by Ricky Ponting. They didn't actually hear the alleged offence?
No, the umpires didn't hear anything. They didn't know anything about it until what we saw on the television, and I was watching that with interest as well and thought it was quite harmonious, but I don't think I can add much to that other than that the umpires reported to me in writing on the fact that Ricky Ponting, Australian captain, had lodged a report to them.
Now, I read and hear that the hearing or the judiciary might be this evening. You said within 36 hours. What will that involve? Will it be the players representing themselves? Will there be lawyers and QCs involved in this? Where's it going to go from here?
Well, a hearing normally, in situations like this, I'm the adjudicator. There'll be witnesses called by both parties, and both parties are entitled to call witnesses they require. The end result is what I want to achieve, and to be fair to both parties, and to answer your question, your lawyers could be involved.
There is a fine line probably in that 3.3 clause that between racial vilification and offensive language or behaviour to a person. Is that where the tribunal's got to decide what happened yesterday?
I've still got to speak to a few people about it, Heels, and I'd prefer not to say anything more at this stage.
Tendulkar was the on-field peacemaker. Last night, he was playing down the incident.
I mean, it's part and parcel of the game, and as long as we don't cross the limits, it's fine. And it's just one of those things which even sometimes the spectators enjoy.
I'm not too sure what exactly happened, but if it did happen, I think it's disappointing. There's no place at all for racism in sport. And I hope the hearing this evening resolves everything, and we come to know exactly what has happened.
Yesterday's clash follows October's heated and highly controversial one-day series in India, where Symonds was the victim of racial taunts. A Foxtel documentary screening Monday captured the Mumbai crowd's abuse.
It is very depressing because I don't think, I'm really disappointed being a Mumbaiite to see something like this from a Mumbai crowd. Mumbai crowd is known to be a sporting crowd.
The cricket show visited the home of Harbhajan during that one-day series. He spoke of India's renewed aggression, but a desire to play within the rules and spirit of the game this summer.
I know I'm not looking to stir things up here. But you would like this Test series against Australia, if you tour, you'd like that to be played in the right spirit,
of
in
course.
a good spirit.
Yeah, of course. I would like to play this series, India-Australia. It's always going to be very, very good series because both the teams, they like playing against each other, and it'll be great if we can play in a good spirit. And cricket is a gentleman's game, so. Hopefully we can all be gentlemen and play the game in a good, proper way. Not just, there were a lot of things were going on when we played them in India. A lot of talk and all, but our media brings a lot of things, unnecessary things in the media, and we shouldn't have brought in the media. And there were a lot of unnecessary things have come out. And but this series, I would particularly say that we should play in the spirit of game, and we shouldn't go away from our limits and just play the game and enjoy it.
Harbhajan, it was so disappointing to hear. I mean, this happened in Perth too when the South Africans were there, but a racial taunt or some form of racial reference is terrible, isn't it? How do you feel about that?
Well, it's bad. You can't do that.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be. It's a game. We should all go to watch and enjoy, and go out. People, they go out to enjoy, and as a player, we go out to play. We shouldn't be saying things which offend anybody, or it's not nice.
If found guilty, Harbhajan could face a ban of between 2 and 4 test matches.
Interesting there, Harbhajan Singh coming onto the ground this morning. He looked happy enough at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Very interesting comments in his story to Tim Sheridan that we showed you earlier in this test match. But without further ado, let me introduce Michael Slater and Tony Gregg to the studio. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, mate.
Very interested in your thoughts this morning, pre this test match, of what has gone on, even with developments during the first session. Slates, can I go to you first? Are the Aussies being a touch petty here and touchy, or once you step over that racial line, that's it?
I think once you step over that racial line, that's it, and something there has to be a line. We've heard from Tendulkar that play within the limits. You heard from Harbhajan Singh himself that it's not nice, and the racial comments are a no-no in this game. You heard from Sonny Gavaskar saying if it's a racial slant, then that's not on, and it surprises me. So everyone you ask will say there has to be a line in the sand, and if you overstep it, and we're talking about him overstepping it with allegedly one word being used wrongly, that word monkey, which became an issue some months ago when Australia were touring India. Now, there was a lot of heat in the field, and then these monkey chants started coming from the Indian crowds, which is very surprising because they are a great cricket crowd normally. And probably it was minority, but the bottom line was the Aussies got on with the job over there, and it was the officials that brought it to the media, and then it became a bigger thing, and it seemed from venue to venue, and then the Mumbai game was the last one. The crowd was sort of latching onto it and amping it up even more. But there was heat in the middle, and I think the follow-on effect has been that the Australians and Indians said, we can't go there on the field, and that was broken yesterday, allegedly. So that's why this has become such an issue.
Greggy, what do you think?
Well, I don't want to jump to any conclusions just yet. It's about exactly what was said and what wasn't said, because, I mean, I think that's going to come out in the hearing when they eventually have it. The two things about this. Number one, what was said prior to, if you say monkey, the word monkey was used, what was said to bring that on? There are always two sides to these stories. There are things that happen. I mean,
there's a culture difference here, isn't there?
Yeah. For example, I mean, is it all right for the Australians to look at an Indian in the eye and go expletive, 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 and not expect an Indian to respond? I mean, perhaps they don't use those sort of expletives. I mean, obviously the Indians are trying to get under the Aussies' skin, and the Aussies are trying to do the same thing. I mean, I said earlier today, this is not a tea party. This is a battle, the heat of the moment. Now, I also think it's just a little unfair to Harbhajan. I mean, we are invited into the sanctity of his home. We to a degree put words in his mouth about sort of playing the game of the right spirit and everything else. And of course, he's going to say in that environment, yes, of course, we'd like to go down this course of doing the right thing. But I mean, Harbhajan knows full well that the Aussies over the years have given to them big time.
But he has a right to disagree if he didn't agree with that statement from Shero. If it wasn't a question, it was a statement. He has the right to disagree with it and say,
but
well...
He's not going to disagree with that. I mean, it's such an obvious thing. Of course we want to play in the right spirit. I mean, why would he disagree with that?
But the racism, it seems to be the common thread. Those racist comments are where the line stops. And I see the culture clash here too. The Aussie might let off those expletives a little more often than an Indian does, or Indians may not use them at all, whereas sometimes they're